All right, welcome everyone. Whether you're joining us live on Zoom or you're streaming inside the St. Petersburg Small Business Owners Facebook group, or maybe you're watching the replay later, we're really glad that you're here. Welcome to the Business Owner Clarity Series Masterclass. This series is designed for business owners who want to step back from the day-to-day and gain clearer perspective on what's really happening inside their business. And so, twice a month, we are covering the most important topics that are going to help support you in your business. We're talking about time, we're talking about the team and how to support them, how to get a great team. And today, we're going to be talking about something that we hear all the time. The business is busy, but the money still feels tight. So, let me ask you, have you ever had a strong month? Maybe it was your best month ever in sales, but somehow your bank account didn't quite reflect it. Or maybe you looked at your numbers and thought, we're doing so much, we're doing a lot in the business. Why does it still feel like there's so much pressure? So let me give you a quick example. We worked with an owner recently who had their best month in sales, and on paper, everything looked really great. But at the end of the month, they looked at their P&L, they looked at their bank statement, they're like, I don't get it. We had the busiest month ever, but it still feels really tight. So they were watching their expenses. They were still thinking, looking at cash, but they were still feeling the pressure. And when we looked deeper, the issue wasn't about effort, and it definitely wasn't about even the sales. It was how the money was actually moving through the business. And once they saw it, everything started to make sense. And that's exactly what we're going to be unpacking for you today. So I want to show you and walk through a few housekeeping things here today. So our agenda, we're going to walk through some housekeeping. We're going to let you know who we are. We're going to do some quick introductions, and then I want to dive into the content. I'm going to show you how you can look at your numbers differently to give you the information that you need in order to get to the goals that you want and to have the freedom that you want in your business. And then we're going to show you simple ways to apply it. And the most important is how to stay in action. And then we're going to wrap it up with some BFOs and some feedback. And so I'll explain this as we get in. So, in order to get the most BFOs, and so for those of you that maybe are new to Action Coach, BFO stands for blinding flash of the obvious. It's like those aha moments, when you're in the shower, and you have that brilliant idea and you don't have anything to write it down. So, in order to get into that space where you're fully present, I invite you to silence your notifications, turn your cell phones off, really get present and really have an opportunity to learn what we're going to be sharing with you today. And another fun thing that we do here is using colors. So when we use colors, when use a different color than like blue or black, it helps activate the creative side of your brain so that you don't start zoning out. And so you start to be able to utilize what you're learning. So I want you to think about, what are some things that I want to learn from today? And even if you're listening to the replay, or maybe you're in the Facebook group, act as if you're presently here. Call out the answers. You can certainly type things in the chat. We'll be monitoring that as well, and it helps you to be able to be present. So let me tell you a little bit about us. So we are the world's #1 business coaching firm, and we have more than 100 coaching offices in 70 countries worldwide. And we're privately owned by Brad Sugars, who is an entrepreneur and best-selling author of multiple books. And I say all of this so that you know who we are, not to impress you, but to impress upon you so that you know we know what we're doing. We have done this not only in different types of businesses, but globally and worldwide. Because a lot of times business owners will think or say to us, but you don't know my business, Stacy. And I want to just let you know that building a business, there is a strategy. And if you do it strategically, it can help you to build a business, because our vision is to create world abundance through business re-education. So the more that you know about business, the better that your business is going to grow and the more that you're going to be able to get to the goals. And we've coached over 15,000 businesses worldwide each week. So I'd love to take a few seconds just to introduce, tell us who you are and, what your company is and the years that you're in business. I know that if you're in the Facebook group, you can type that into the chat. If you're listening to the replay and you want to let us know about that as well, would love to hear more about you. I think we've got a few of our amazing team members that are on, and I'd love to just take a moment to have them introduce themselves, or you can type that in the chat as well. And for those of you that are new to me, I am Stacy Peasall, and I have been coaching for the last 14 years. I absolutely love coaching because it helps businesses to be able to have their dreams, to be able to have their freedom. And when they're able to let go of the reins a little bit and have an outside advisor, they're able to see a clearer picture. And ultimately, they're able to sleep better at night and just have more enjoyment. So that's why I love supporting the businesses in our community. Is anyone else available to pop on and share with us their intro?
Yeah, Stacy, I can hop on. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Francis. I am the executive assistant here at Action Coach Tampa Bay. I'm excited you guys are here today and excited to help support you guys, reach your next level in your business.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan.
I can go ahead and jump in there. I'm Teresa
Thank you.
Strommark. Teresa Strommark, I'm one of the other coaches here at Action Coach Tampa Bay. So happy that we have this platform available for you all to come in and get a quick little learning, a little pep talk around your business. And it's all free, right? Just come in here, get some information, apply it, and go on about your way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, so let's take a look at why did you choose to come to this webinar today? And so think about that. A lot of times we show up to trainings, we think, oh, that sounds good, but we don't think about what is the intention? What is that one thing that you want to choose to get out of today? So if you can write that down, it can just be, try to be as specific as you can. Yes, we love motivation. Yes, we love being able to get information, but what's something that you want to walk away with that's going to make a huge difference in your business and in your life? So take a moment to write that down. As specific as you can. Yes, we love motivation. Yes, we love being able. So today isn't about motivation or theory. It's about understanding why this problem exists and how to fix it with structure. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing for you today, is helping you to move forward. Just exactly like Kayla Newland, who's also a client of ours. When he came to work with us, one of the main things he was focused on was revenue. And he says here, we've doubled the revenue over the past year. And more importantly, we've doubled profit and margin over the last year. So that is what I want to be able to show you exactly how you can do the same in your business to have the same level of success. So one of the reasons why business owners struggle is because of this dude in the jar. So, he's got the sign, you can't read the label from inside the jar. And so having an outside advisor gives you that outside perspective. So most of you are working 60 hours a week. You're doing the operations of the business. But the reality is when you're inside your business, whether it's a brick and mortar, whether it's online, you're doing the day-to-day operations. You're doing all the things and you can see the work that you need to do in the business, but you don't necessarily see the work that you need to do in your business. And that's what makes you feel stuck. And it's not because you're not working hard enough. It's because you literally can't see what's holding you back. So I just want to invite you to kind of look at it from that perspective is when you can have someone that's outside of it, they're not emotionally involved in your business, they can see what are the things that is missing. What's the thing that you need to do to focus on today that's going to help you to move forward in your business? And let's face it, why did we get into business? We get into business because we want to have more freedom. We want to spend more time with our family. It's not just necessarily about making more money. I mean, that's nice. We all want to make more money, of course. But we also, when we talk to business owners, they want to spend more time with their family. They want to sleep better at night. They want to have dinner with their family, maybe go on vacation. So this is about the lives that are impacted. And so when we're working with business owners, we're looking at working with business owners that are tired of, saying, "How's your business?" Fine, kind of that fine facade. I know that whenever I talk to businesses, that's what they say, "Oh, everything's fine." But the reality is, we all know that there are struggles with business. And when you are struggling and doing it all on your own, it's going to have a cost to your family. And so this is why it's important to work on your business and be able to have an outside advisor that can help you so that ultimately you can spend more time with your family. So let's look at the core narrative of most business owners. Most business owners are busy. They're growing, right? But time, that feels pretty scarce. There's only so much time in the day, and their money feels tight, or sometimes their cash flow is unpredictable, and sometimes the effort is not always equaling the reward. So if working harder solved this, then you wouldn't still be here. And so I think that's something that is such an important thing to remember, is that working harder doesn't necessarily solve the problem. So it's really about learning the strategy, learning the skills that you need to know in your business to be strategic about your growth, because growing revenue is not going to solve the problem. So before we dive into the really fun stuff with financials, I want us just to look at the beliefs behind money. So a lot of us grow up with beliefs around money. So most owners default to, "I just need more sales. I need more clients. I need to grow." But there's also this underlying narrative that they were conditioned in the early stages, oftentimes from parents who say things like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "You just have to work harder to make the money," or whatever it is that you grew up with, the beliefs around money. Maybe you have a belief that you're not good with numbers, or maybe you're not good with finances, or, it just seems too hard. So if you have some of those limiting beliefs, I invite you to get some support around that to really figure out what those things are, because those are going to hold you back from doing the work. Because when it comes time to look at your P&L or look at your cash flow report, you're going to have that narrative running behind the scenes that are saying, "Oh, you're not very good at that. You probably shouldn't do that." And it's important because we need to look at the numbers in our business and we need to feel confident about that. Because if in order to have your business grow, if we all agree that the numbers, the language of business, we have to understand it. And so I just want to say, or just emphasize, that learning to be good with money, learning how to read financial reports, it doesn't mean you have to be an accountant. It doesn't mean you have to be an expert. It just means you need to learn a skill set in order to do that. And it's not something that is really, really challenging. It's just something that maybe you haven't learned yet. So I just want to open the perspective to help you to feel empowered around money. And I want to show you some different ways to be able to do that. So when we look at knowing money and the things that you want for empowering beliefs around money, is not only do you need to know your historic numbers, the numbers of, where you've been, but you also need to know the ones that carry you into your future. That's really important. And too many business owners, they make their decisions in their business based upon their emotions or based upon their feeling. And so sometimes we feel exhausted or sometimes we feel tired, and that's not what you want to be making your decisions on. You want to have the information. And if you don't have that information, you definitely need to start, even if it feels a little bit scary, like, "Oh, I don't want to look at the numbers." It's okay. You have to have a starting ground in order to move you forward, because you can't manage what you're not measuring. So you want to look at both your historic numbers as well as future key performance indicators. So those KPIs are going to show you what you need to do in order to get to your goals. So you have to measure your key performance indicators. And so this is about testing and measuring and knowing those numbers as well. So let's look at profit is a theory and cash is a fact. So, this is something that I want to invite you to embrace. That when we're looking, and I'm going to show you some examples here in a little bit of some profit numbers. But if you don't know what the cash is, this is the fact that's going to carry you through and that's going to also influence and show you why sometimes looking at just your P&L is going to be an area that you need to actually expand upon and have the understanding of what's in your cash. And so that you know what that cash is. And so what we're talking about is, in the early years of business, 80% of businesses fail due to poor cash flow management. So if you look at the numbers of businesses, in the first few years, this is one of the main reasons why they do fail. And we want to make sure that you succeed in your business. So in order to do that, you have to be able to manage what the cash flow is and manage that well. And I want to show you exactly what we're talking about. So what we're talking about is the cash gap. So I know some businesses are really, really aware of the cash gap, especially if you're in like trades, if you're a contractor. And so, I'm going to show you this overview. Don't get too concerned with all of the details. I just want you to follow along with the story. So at the beginning, the cash goes out. So in this example, you've got, the cash is going out, meaning that if you have a new job, let's say that you are in the trades and you have a new job, you have to purchase the material. So you're paying for the labor, you're paying for the material, and you're already paying for your overhead. All right. And then time passes. And then you deliver your services. Okay. So your goods dispatched is when you deliver your services. But if you look at it, this is when you've paid for the services, but look over here in the receivables. So this is when you're receiving the money. So in this example, this is a 90-day gap. So if you think about it, sometimes people are paying 30 days later, sometimes 60 days later, or sometimes even longer, like in this example of 90 days. So that's when the cash is coming back in. So you've done, you've ordered your materials, you've paid your staff, you've paid your overhead, and then 90 days later, you're getting paid for that. That's what's considered that gap. And so in this example, like I said, it's 90 days. So think about what that means. If you're constantly funding the business up front, which is why the business can feel really busy, and that's why it feels tight, then think about how many of you feel like your business is working, but the cash doesn't feel like it's keeping up. And this is why. So here's the theory, like we talked about, profit is a theory, cash is a fact. So you can look profitable on paper and still feel the pressure in reality. And so a lot of times people don't think about it. And I've seen businesses where, they're so busy in the operations of delivering the product, delivering the service, they're installing the AC and they're waiting like a week or two later to send out the invoice because they're so behind in all of their paperwork. Well, guess what? That's a couple of weeks later that they've invoiced. And then think about the owner, the person that is, the customer that's paying it. They're also busy and they might forget. And if you don't have a good follow-up strategy or anything else, then that gets delayed. So the good news is that can be fixed. And I'm going to be sharing with you 15 different strategies to help you with really clear examples of how to shorten this gap. And so I want you to think about the 4 areas that you want to look at. First is you want to look at how can I get paid sooner? The second is reducing how long the cash is tied up. And the third is you want to look at how can I improve my margin? And then the fourth one is structuring how your money moves. So, for example, something as simple as moving from invoicing later to collecting deposits up front can drastically shorten your cash gap. So you want to look at what are the different ways that you can do that. You don't have to do everything. You just have to find out like what in your business, what is your biggest delay? So I want you to, if you've got a pen and paper, I want you to write down, list all the strategies that you can think of that can reduce the length of your cash gap. And I'm going to be sharing with you those strategies. So you can take a screenshot if you need to, or write those down. But what are the ones that are going to help you in your business to be able to move it forward? So let's dive in and look at the strategies. So the first one is to require partial or full deposit on contract to be paid up in front. So if you're not already doing this, this is a great way to be able to help you to, when you've got to get the supplies, helps you in that so that you're using their money versus your own. Number two is you can finish the project so that they can be billed or invoiced. So like I mentioned with that example, don't wait to bill or invoice. Make sure, do you have something automatically in place that bills it? Are you doing like a final walkthrough in your project so that when you are finished, you're collecting right immediately? Do you have an automated email series that goes out? The third is you want to, like I said, bill or invoice immediately on completion of the job. You want to make sure that you're not having a delay. Now, if you're the only person that's doing it, you might look at what is this costing me and could I outsource, could I delegate this to someone else? The fourth is use a delivery and acceptance process at job completion. And the fifth is systemize the billing and invoice process. So if you don't already have a system, meaning that if you were to hire someone today and put them in that position, they could follow the system. If it's all up in your head, that's not a system. Okay, so you want to make sure you have either a checklist or step-by-step process to help you with this and help to be able to invoice quicker and to be able to receive the money faster in your business. The next, complete billing and invoicing on a weekly basis, or give 7-day terms instead of 30. So oftentimes you can just shorten it just by having your terms be shorter. And then number 8 is sending multiple invoices with increasing demand. So, think about, when you have that in place, if you've got it automated, so if they don't pay, they're getting noticed, 14 days, 30 days, 45 days. Another strategy you could use is giving a 1 to 5% discount for early payment. So if you're in a position where, your cash is really tight, this might be beneficial for you in those beginning stages to be able to shorten that. Or add and collect interest on overdue accounts. So have that part of your contract. So if it goes past the 7 days, then it starts accruing interest so that you're getting paid for that time. And then the last one I talked about too, or the 11th one, is outsourcing the entire billing or invoicing process. So you may need to outsource that. If it's going to be faster and you're not able to keep up with it, it can certainly help you to be able to move that and shorten that gap. And then reducing inventory. So if you do have inventory on hand, like thinking about what is my low inventory trigger points, my minimum and my maximum, so that I'm not keeping so much on hand. I don't have all the trucks full, or I don't have, the warehouse full. What do I keep on hand to be able to make sure that I'm just using what I need? Another is buying inventory or consignment and paying it when it's sold, and negotiating price on large orders, but receiving and paying for inventory on a gradual flow. So that's a great strategy too. Or another thing too, I think a lot of times people don't think about is negotiating longer terms with your vendors. So they may have standard terms, and oftentimes you can ask, can I have a longer term? That's going to help you to be able to have a longer term to pay them while you're waiting for your clients to pay you. And then a bonus is using progress payments on projects to get paid during the job right at completion. So think about what are the strategies that would really help move that cash or reduce the cash flow gap in your business the most. We don't have to use all of these. These are just different strategies. Even if you were to use one of them, it's going to help you to be able to improve that and help you to look at having more cash on hand. So the next thing we're going to do is looking at a cash flow report. So as I'm sharing this, I don't want you to get overwhelmed by looking at all the numbers. I just want you to understand that when you're looking at this is going to show you why looking at just the profit is not the only indicator that you need to look at. So this is something that when I first looked at it, I was a little bit overwhelmed with all of the numbers, but then once I started to see the pattern, I really started to understand it. So what you're seeing on the left, that's just normal income, cost of goods sold, your gross profit, your fixed owner's salary, net profit, equity inflow, that's the money that you're putting into the business. And then that tells you your cash position. So if you were to look at this sample client, looks like the very first month here in January, their cash position was 5,000. They made 100,000. That looks pretty great. And the next month, February, okay, they were down to 75,000. They're still in a pretty good cash position because they're at 3750. Now their net profit was 1250, but remember their cash position was 5,000. But here's where it starts to change. So in March, okay, the revenue went down. Yes, the cost of goods is going to go down. Little bit of fixed, but your fixed costs, if you remember here, they're the same. And then look here, their fixed costs actually went up. And so they were in a position where not only did they have net profit, but also their cash position. And then in April, if they look here, this is where they actually had to be in a position where their, excuse me, their income went up, just like February, which looks great. Their owner's salary still was the same. Now they are in a position where their net profit, but look at what happened to their cash position. So look at what they had to do in May. In May, they had to put in money into the company in order to have them be at a not a negative any longer. And so this is where it's really important to understand how the cash is moving through your business. So even though, they had a pretty good month in April, if you're looking because they did have the lower months and because that the cash wasn't moving through, that's one of the reasons why. So thinking about that, this is going to be able to help you to close that cash gap and knowing how to read your cash flow report and be able to have an area where you're looking at, okay, we know when the revenue's coming in, we know that the costs, are going out, we know we're left with the gross profit, but we also need to look at, okay, it looks fine on paper in some months, but not others. And so here's where the things start to feel different is even when profits look okay, look what happens to the cash position. So that's what you want to look at. You have those months where the equity inflow, right, that they had to do. So taking a look at this, you want to understand the connection between this. And that's why we talk about profit as a theory and cash as a fact. You want to be able to understand, even though you're working harder, this is one of the reasons why it's not showing up for you. And so that's why understanding how to reduce that cash gap is so important. So when you're looking at your business, I want you to think about what's the biggest financial headache in your business right now? Is it that you need to understand, maybe you just need to understand what the cash gap is. Maybe it's something that you're just now learning. Maybe you need to put some systems in place to be able to automate that process so you're invoicing sooner. Maybe it's that you need to have a deeper understanding of how to read your P&Ls or how to do projections. Those are all things that are important to learn in your business. So just take a moment to write a few of those down. What is that biggest financial headache in your business? And how can you look at what are the ways that you can solve it by being able to focus on a few different things. So the next thing that I want to dive into is the key performance indicators, otherwise known as KPIs. So these are the indicators that are in your business that are going to help you to know at any given point of, of what you need to focus on in your business. These are, think of it like the vital signs in your business. So just like you have, like, in your car, you get I just had my light come on my car because I need to have an oil change, right? So that is a KPI in my car. So just like that in your business, you have indicators that are going to show you, if you pay attention to them and you measure them, of course, they're going to show you how you can make small adjustments in your business that are going to have big impact later on. And so there's financial KPIs. Of course, we know revenue, right? Is the sales increasing? We know profits. Am I making money? So thinking about too, you also need to know, like, what is my break even point? What do I need to bring in every month in order to have break even? And then you want to know what's my break even plus profit. So if you don't know your break even, that's such a great place to start, which basically means, what revenue do I need to bring in to cover my cost of goods sold and my fixed expenses and the owner's salary. There's a lot of businesses that are not paying themselves, and we want to make sure that you're paying yourself. The next is projected cash flow. So, do I have enough cash in my business? And then the equity. Is my business gaining value or is it losing value? So it's an important thing to understand what those are. And then your ratios, what are your payables? What's your account receivables? What are your ratios in your business? Those are all indicators. Now, you don't have to start to understand them all, but you definitely need to be able to start working on one and then another one so that you do have a KPI dashboard or you have an indicator that's going to help you to know these are the things I need to do. If you can know what you need to, not only on a monthly basis, but on a daily basis, if you know what these are on a daily basis and you know what your break even point is, then you can say, you can make a goal for yourself. Like, I want to make sure that I have, break even by the 15th of every month. It's going to help you to know every single day how to hit those markers. And then after the 15th, it's just all profit. So you want to be able to have those indicators so that you know what you need to focus on in your business. And then there's non-financial KPIs. So looking at activity measures and drivers, so that might be, activity measures of, where are my customers coming from? What are the areas that I want to focus on? What's my conversion rate from my marketing to my sales? What is my customer service measures? What are my reviews like? What's that rating that I do have? If I want to get to 100 reviews, so I'm getting a lot more notice on Google, then what can I do in order to hit that? And thinking about strategies to be able to help you to move forward with that. All right, so I know we have talked a lot, and I know finances sometimes can be a lot, so take a breath. It's all good. And thinking about, like, when we talked about in the beginning, what was the thing that you wanted to focus on? What was the thing that you wanted to get value out of? You don't need to track everything in the very beginning. You just need to have a few numbers that actually matter. And when you're looking at the finances, what's something that I need to understand today? How can I shorten my cash gap? Maybe there's one strategy. And then what is a KPI that I'm not measuring that I could start measuring now that's going to help me to become more clear? Because when your business is more clear, it's much easier to manage and you can look at it more strategically and a little less emotional. Because I know I've owned several different businesses and I wish I would have known this then. I'm just telling you, because there were some emotional times. It can feel like an emotional roller coaster. And when you can look at the business You can say, okay, actually, I'm not doing as bad as I thought. In fact, I just met with a client a couple weeks ago, and she did this really amazing sales sprint with her sales team. And she said, oh, they didn't do very good. And I said, well, let's take a look. And we looked at her dashboard, we looked at her numbers, and her numbers were up 60%. But she didn't feel like they did very good. So, feelings sometimes can lie, but the numbers in our business, they definitely don't lie. So it definitely makes it easier to manage. So if your cash flow felt more predictable, what would change for you? You'd have less stress, you'd have better decisions, you'd have more confidence. And so when we talk about the definition of a successful business, our definition is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. And, even if you don't decide that you want to exit your business anytime soon, sometimes life puts situations in our lap that we didn't plan for. And think about this, if you can't walk away from your business, what's going to happen to that? So if something happened in your life, would you be able to walk away from your business for a month and have it still be working without you? That's an important thing to understand. We want to make sure that it's working without you and that you're able to handle whatever life throws at you. And if you want to have a little more fun, maybe go on a vacation, that would be great too, right? So you want to learn to work on your business, not just in your business, which means working on the financials, working on the things, the KPIs that are going to help you to move your business forward. So I want to share another success story, which I always love to do. And this is from a law firm, and she said, I would highly suggest business coaching to any business owner that's serious about trying to save money and be able to grow. So if you think that investing in your own training is not worth it, I will tell you have to. It is vital to invest in training and development in order to improve your business because it's not only going to save you money or make you money, it's actually going to save you time in the end as well. So most owners fail because when they fall off the wagon, they stay off. So think about all the new gym memberships that come in, January, everybody wants to lose weight. And, by February, everyone's like the gyms are empty. All right. So it's easy to do that because you don't have someone there holding you accountable. And so, you start looking at numbers, you start measuring your conversion rate, and then business gets busy, you forget, months come up, and then it's like, oh, I haven't been doing that. I haven't been following up on my leads. And then one bad day turns into a bad month. So coaching isn't about never failing, because that's going to happen, but it's about getting back on track faster than you would on your own. Just like as a personal trainer, it's going to push you further and it's going to help you to stay consistent. So we work with owners who are tired of that facade of like, I'm fine and ready for that breakthrough. And so, if this is you, like we talked about, our definition of a successful business is a commercial, profitable, saleable enterprise that works without you. So it's about working on your business to be able to help you to move forward, not just in your business. And so I want to invite you into taking a next step. The the challenge isn't about understanding the cash gap or the KPIs just once, like, okay, now I've got it. The challenge really is about applying it consistently. And that's where support makes the difference. What most owners tell us at some point is, I don't want more ideas. I feel like I have decision fatigue. I just want it to feel easier and I want it to feel more predictable. And so that's exactly why we created our 12-week business owner masterclass. It's 1 hour per week for 12 weeks, which is $100 per week or 1,200 total, whichever you prefer. And during those 12 weeks, we help owners to improve their cash flow, to strengthen their team, and create a structure in the business to grow and scale. So if you enroll today with only a $100 deposit, we're going to add on a stack offer. So I'm excited about this because it's so amazing. The first is Entrepreneur Day. So that means that get to come to an in-person event. We host it every third Friday of the month. And it is a room full of entrepreneurs who are there working on their business. So it's a fantastic networking opportunity as well as workshop. You get to be in peer groups, you get to do masterminds, you get to focus on what is helping you to move your business. And every single month we do a different topic. The second thing that you get is a DISC assessment. So if you're not familiar with DISC, what this is a communication and motivator tool. It's going to be able to help you to understand why you do what you do or why you don't do what you do sometimes. So it's going to help you to know what your strengths are, as well as kind of what your kryptonite is, and help you to improve your communication with people in sales, with your team. And it can also help you and your family as well. So it's a great assessment to be able to have to help you to communicate more effectively. And then you also get a strategy session with one of our amazing coaches. And then you get access to our 30X learning portal. So this has 90 videos to help you in all three areas of your life, with your business, with your life, and also with your wealth. So if you're not sure what the next right step is, this is one of those amazing things that I would invite you into, and you can enroll. We'll provide the link as well. And um, if you're saying, okay, Stacy, I'm not right sure yet, I'm not sure if this is the good fit for me, you can also book a complimentary strategy session. Be happy to do that. We normally charge $4.95, but included for everyone that's here today, listening today, or also on the replay, just select a time that works for you, and we can chat about your business, where you're at, can help you to kind of understand maybe what some of your financial struggles are, and we can help to be able to help you move that forward and know what the next best step for you is. So just select a time that works for you. And then lastly, I would really love to hear, what is your feedback? We want to know what was something that really stood out to you. What did you really like? We've got these webinars every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, and we're going to be live streaming them into the group as well. And so we're doing this to support you. And so when we receive the feedback from you, it helps us to be able to improve and helps us to be able to give the content that you're really looking for. So either way, I hope today that gave you some clarity of why a business can be busy and the money can still feel tight. Because what actually starts to change is, we want to make sure that you're profitable. We want to make sure that you feel like you have a solid business that you can walk away from at any given moment and feel confident that it's going to be working without you. And so this is the 12-week business owner masterclass. Like I mentioned, you'll be able to invest in yourself. You're able to have all of the bonuses that we talked about. We'll provide the link for you in the chat. And if you can give us your feedback, we would so appreciate it. So before we wrap things up, I want you to share what your BFOs were, what your blinding flash of the obvious. Let us know in the comments. We would love to read those. What really stood out to you, what you enjoyed the most. And like I mentioned, if you can give us the feedback, that would be great as well. So this is one of our favorite quotes here. Actually, Teresa, I know this is yours, and it's, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And so, just like when someone's taking a picture of you and they say, actually, you need to move to the right or you need to move to the left because they can see the person behind you, this is the same thing for in your business. So you're not able to see as many things as we can outside as business advisors. We can see some of those indicators, some of the things that need to change, or some of the things that just a slight change would make such a big impact in your business. So now it's time to get into action. And if you found this helpful, you can find us online at Action Coach Tampa Bay. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're also on YouTube. And we've also created a brand new YouTube playlist called the Business Owner Clarity Series. And that's where you can watch the replay. So if you missed the one a couple weeks ago, or if you want to watch this again, this is where it's going to be posted. So whether you take the next step with us or you're looking for just getting to know us, that's fine as well. These resources are here for you. And we want to make sure that you're stepping into action and that you're being successful. And it's such a pleasure to be with you today. I appreciate you all for your time and appreciate you being here. Have a great day, everyone.